What is up, Waffle Gang? I hope you're doing well. My name is Mark, and welcome to r/mi the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. As always, a massive thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. It really does mean the world to me. And with that being said, let's just jump straight in to today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from Free2Bex2. Am I the arsehole for hacking my mum's Instagram to see if she violated NDA? I'm a nanny for a high profile family. I signed a very extensive and strict NDA. Anyone directly involved in my life, mum, dad, sis and husband, also signed an NDA. The nanny family recommended this to talk about the job without getting into any legal trouble or putting them at risk. Recently ran into one of my parents' neighbours, Amber, at the park. Amber asked how the new job was going, then proceeded to ask specifics how it must be working for a family where the parents are into their jobs here. A direct violation of the NDA and something I could be fired and sued for. My dad isn't the sharing type, like at all, so I figured it was probably my mum. I asked her about it in a casual, "Hey, how's Amber" way. I said I ran into Amber at the park, and that it was odd she knew the details about my job without me telling her. My mum simply shrugged and said, "That's funny, maybe she googled, or saw something on social media." My dad and sister absolutely hate Amber. They essentially said hell would have to freeze over before they spoke to her willingly. My dad ended our convo, where I asked him about it by saying, "The only thing I know about her is that her son just made a partner at a law firm in New York and is making bank, and that's only because mum saw it on Instagram and told me about it." Right then, I knew my mum lied to me and it was her. She and Amber love to one-up each other with their children's success, and I also just landed a great new job. I asked my mum about it again, and she told me that I was being dramatic, making stuff up, and that she would never do that to me. My mum doesn't text people, only DMs on Instagram. I know her password, so logged in to check her messages. There was an extremely long DM to Amber where she shared their professions, children's names, ages, private school, general locations of their home, how they pay really well, etc. Everything that we're legally not allowed to say, she said. I called her immediately and said I logged into her DMs and saw the message she sent Amber. That was a violation. She started screaming at me about how she's supposed to be able to trust her daughter. She can't believe I hacked into her Instagram, that mothers should be allowed to brag about their children, and then she hung up. It's been a week without contact between the two of us. We used to speak every single day. I'm starting to believe that I'm the arsehole here for violating her trust like that. My husband says if anyone violated trust here, it is her, and that I gave her ample opportunity to tell the truth before I intervened and sought out the truth myself. He constantly reminds me that they could sue us into the ground and fire me for endangering my nanny family's well-being, because truthfully, Amber could easily be a psycho fan or sell the information to someone who is. So, am I the arsehole? Absolutely not, and your husband is totally right. If you all sign this NDA, you could get sued into the ground for this. If something went wrong, like you said, if Amber was a toxic fan or an obsessive fan and started doing all this sort of stuff, it could easily be backtracked and then you'd be in massive trouble. So yeah, you're absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. However, I'm not exactly sure what you can do now it's got this far. Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Down by the C113 says, "Not the arsehole, your mum crossed the line and could end up costing you your job. I would be livid." Leah Dentaru says, "Not the arsehole, I'd recommend a seer and tell the family what your mum did and how you responded, that they know you didn't have anything to do with it." I don't know what I'm doing here says, "Not the arsehole, your husband is right. She literally could ruin your lives with that information." Pretend Pickle says, "Not the arsehole, your husband is right. You gave her a chance to come clean and she didn't. She could have easily endangered your job and the family you nanny for. I mean, the NDA is there for a reason." And Flippin' Freddy says, "Not the arsehole, she legally broke a very binding and dangerous contract. She's putting the family and most importantly those children in danger. Worse is you don't know how Amber will use that info. Your family already hates her and sees her as toxic. What's scary is having to possibly tell your employer." And Sparkly Sloth Giraffe says, very nice name, "Not the arsehole, I don't think your mum gets how bad this is. I sign NDAs all day every day for what I do. I work in Hollywood and it's part of the job. Your mum doesn't get that her violating this NDA is not just breaking your trust with this family, it will ruin all potential job opportunities. It really will. The chance of you being able to find another job after word gets out you violated an NDA, it won't be easy, not at all. Also, this is why my mum and I don't talk about my work at all. Luckily, I live 3k miles away, so that helps. Now, what do you guys think of this situation? Could OP potentially be in big trouble, or will it come down to the mother, because she also had to sign this NDA? I assume it's a separate one from the actual OP. So, could she still lose her job because of this? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story is from OKGap594. Am I the arsehole for holding my stepsister's mother's ashes until she returns my dog to me? Throw away because this whole drama is stupid and I am ashamed of it. I, 20 female, was temporarily living with my mother, stepfather and stepsister, 14. Me and stepsister were never close. She hates me and my mother, thinking that my mother stole her father away from her after our own mother passed. It's been that way for 4 years already, and while she's in slightly better terms with my mother, she still constantly tries to disturb me because I am not as tolerant as my mother. As for my stepfather, he is quite okay, but would pretend to ignore me in front of my stepsister sometimes because she would throw a fuss about it. I was supposed to move to a rather far place to work and study. My father arranged for me to move in after renovations are done, bringing my dog with me. When I first brought my dog to my mother's a few months ago, my stepsister seemingly fell in love with him. At first it was just asking me to take care of him, then we took turns taking him out. For a while I even thought we could have gotten along better because we both loved the dog. And one day my sister returned without my dog and announced that she had given him away, just to spite me. She got what she wanted, and no matter how nicely or nastily I asked her, she wouldn't tell me where she took him. I complained it to my mother and stepfather, but they couldn't get her to talk either. She has this attitude of, try me, whenever she gets stubborn. I was to move in 2 days, and I guess she wanted to keep my dog for herself, or make me miss my cross-country train. I know it is despicable, but I was worried for my pup, and whatever she could have done with him. I sneaked into her room when she was not looking, and took her mother's ash urn. I know this was precious to her, precious enough to be used to make her talk. I hid the urn somewhere she would never find. Sure enough, my stepsister lost it completely when she realised what I did. And similarly, I never talk no matter what my mother or stepfather say. After all this screaming and crying, she finally gave in and admitted that she brought him to her friends. After taking the trip and passing my dog back to me, she demanded to have the urn back, but I did not tell her until the day of my departure, in case she wanted to pull some sick prank again. Everyone I know of, including my own father, thinks I took it too far. Well, in the end, nothing really bad happened. I did it in the worst way possible, quoted by my mother, who did nothing to help either. It was my stepsister who started it. She knew how important my pup is to me, and she tried to take him away from me, so I used a similar way to make her return him, and it worked. I didn't do it out of spite, just making use of what I could to get my dog back. So in this case, am I the arsehole? Firstly, you just gotta say, your parents are massive arseholes. They're just doing nothing in all this. She took your dog and gave it away, and they're not somehow just forcing it out of her, man. They should just kick her out for that sort of behaviour. That's ridiculous. But I can't say you're the arsehole either. I mean, she wants to play these idiotic, childish games with you, and hiding your dog, that's not even childish, sorry, that's a stupid game with you, to hide your dog. Yeah, I don't blame you for what you did. You do anything you can to get your dog back. 14 or not, she needs to learn the hard way that you can't piss around with people's pets. You do that, you get yourself in trouble, and that's exactly what she did. And, you know, you gave her a taste of her own medicine, so in my opinion, you know, she got what she deserved. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Chew My Fudge says, not the arsehole, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Another great Reddit phrase there. She did this to herself, and shame on her for bringing an innocent animal into a personal feud. The reason others don't get it is because they don't have a bond with a dog as you do. They just see it as another dog. CR2810 says, not the arsehole, but dang, your parents need to step it up. She is a problem. DH says, not the arsehole, congrats to you for finding a creative solution. However, this does mean probably never letting anyone in your extended family into your home for more than a minute, as a precedent for ransoming has now been established. Watch your back. Still worth it though. Wounderer says, not the arsehole, I have a dog. If anyone tries to steal it, I would do the same or worse. You did a good thing standing up for the dog. I salute you. Now, what would you do in this situation? If someone took your pet and hid it, how would you react? Would you take that girl's ashes and hide them, or would you do a lot worse? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is from Am I the Arsehole Mother-in-Law Gift. Am I the arsehole for being mad at mother-in-law's present and refusing to see her again? Throwaway because my husband follows my main. My 42 female family is from East Asia. My parents moved to the US before I was born, and I was born in the US, but we went back to their home country and I would spend every summer there so I can identify strongly with the culture. In my grandmother's village, it is traditional to get your children a gold necklace with their zodiac animal and gift it on their 18th birthday. I believe it is a beautiful tradition, so for the birth of my children, 18 female, 14 female, we take a trip back to my grandmother's village so that my family can meet my babies and we can buy a necklace from the local jeweler. My husband, 45 male, is born and raised in America and white, but he's always been very supportive of my desire to teach our children my culture, but mother-in-law has taken great offence. Her stance is that because we're in America, our children should only speak English, do American things, i.e. extracurriculars such as soccer or swimming instead of their traditional dance, and instrument lessons which I have offered to stop if they don't like it, but they say they want to continue. Mother-in-law knows about the necklaces and has always known about my intention to gift the necklaces to my daughters on their 18th birthdays. She hates the tradition and calls it tacky and imperialist. The oldest turned 18 last week and we had a COVID appropriate celebration over Zoom with almost all of our friends and families. I say almost because as I opened the garage to park my car a half hour before the party, mother-in-law and father-in-law appeared out of nowhere, walked into the garage and into the house. Once in the house, mother-in-law thrust a gift to my daughter's hands and insisted she open it first on Zoom. Daughter opens it and lo and behold there is an enormous 5-carat diamond necklace with pearls and a platinum chain. On the back of the setting was an engraving of some kind of lion. Mother-in-law proclaims to the Zoom call that her ancestors are Scottish and it's tradition to give brides pearls on their wedding day, so mother-in-law decided to gift this necklace to my daughter now, instead to make a new tradition in the family. The seal on the back she claims that after research on ancestry is her family clan seal. I got a little teary-eyed because the necklace was definitely beautiful. I held it in, gave my daughter a gift, then excused myself to the restroom. Mother-in-law followed me and told me that this tradition was more appropriate for America and this would be the new family tradition because I'm married into the family, not the other way around. After the party, I told husband that I refused to see her anymore. He's understanding but hesitant as it is his mother and does not want to create drama. I told him to grow a spine because I feel like this was to spite me. I called mother-in-law to tell her the news and she flew into a fury, screaming at me that I can't take away her baby's identity. Am I the arsehole? Holy crap. What an absolute spiteful thing to do. Something you've been waiting for years to hand these necklaces over, and she takes that limelight and then gives her this gift. I'd love to know how the daughters reacted to this as well. And the whole joke of it all, that she's starting a new American tradition with a Scottish gift. Scottish clan, what the hell? God, in my mind when I was reading that, I could just picture the mother-in-law looking like this diamond gift being handed to the daughter and her opening up, then her handing her gift, thinking along the lines of like, it's not as much as what mother-in-law just handed over. And it's such a shame. And then for her to follow her to the toilet and say, this tradition is more appropriate. I mean, come on, man. The husband in this needs to step up and say something because that is just not on. I can't believe that she did that. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Pom Desang says, not the arsehole, and then says, you should sort of say, but you said the kids should do American things, and the last I checked, Scotland isn't America, so it's about time you admit your problem is that my traditions aren't white. And then say her name. Because that is exactly the root of the issue here. She's also full of it. A lion and just a lion versus, whole say, a specific heraldic lion, plus the other finery found on a clan's crest of coat of arms, is just a lion. Nothing specifically Scottish about it one way or another. Oh, and generally speaking, pearls are considered bad luck for a bride, tears of the sea, and represent all the tears she will shed in a marriage. And Flippin' Freddy says, not the arsehole, mother-in-law is racist and a bigot and trying to start new American traditions with a Scottish gift is ridiculous. Never Say Never says, not the arsehole, oh my fucking god, your mother-in-law is a effing B. She is racist and it looks like she doesn't give a damn about your religion or your cultural beliefs. It is totally understandable that you do not want to engage in conversation with her because she broke a long-lasting tradition in spite of you giving something to your daughter. Your mother-in-law needs to realise that these are not her babies and are her grandchildren, in which she cannot make such big parenting decisions of breaking family traditions, etc. Your husband seems like a nice and supporting person, so you can both get through this together. If I was in your shoes after the pandemic, I would still go and buy that necklace because frankly, you shouldn't stop a family tradition or because of your fucking mother-in-law. Sorry if this is really rude, it's just very sad on how low a mother-in-law can fall. If it is inherently offensive, let me know so I can delete my comments. And Moon in Pisces says, I believe there is an old Scottish superstition along the lines of no pearls, no tears. The bride's jewellery should never include pearls as they represent the tears of a bride will shed during the marriage. Your mother-in-law is an idiot. Now, what do you guys think of this story? I think this is just an incredibly sad one. You know, I always get like these vivid images when I read these stories, and seeing the mother-in-law like that and just having to walk away, it's just so incredibly sad to me. What would you do in that situation if you was OP? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from Particular Catch. Am I the arsehole for not telling my wife what my parents were saying to our kids in Spanish? My wife and I have 3 kids, 21, 19 and 16. My parents did whatever they wanted with our kids, spoiled the hell out of them, and if we had an issue told us to fuck off. I know what you're gonna say, we should have set boundaries, but we felt like we couldn't. We owed them hundreds of thousands of dollars, like money we will never be able to pay back, and they have everything in writing. They own our home, both our cars, I work for my dad's best friend because he called in a favour, and they would have left us with nothing. If my wife tried to stand up to my mum would just ask if she wanted lights for the month. My wife and I had a lot of issues and were never a united front, and I would try to stand up to my parents and then she would borrow more money. It is pretty bad right now. My 21-year-old hates her mother and won't come to our house. My 19-year-old isn't as extreme, but he is living with my parents and going to school and says they are his real family. My 16-year-old is rebelling against her mum and calls my mum up to complain. My parents primarily speak Spanish. My wife doesn't speak it, and it made her a little uncomfortable when they would talk to the kids in Spanish, but she never wanted to learn. Well, my parents and my kids use Spanish to badmouth my wife. I speak it, so I knew for years, but I didn't see the point in telling her when we were trapped. Recently we had a family gathering, and my wife's sister, who speaks Spanish, told my wife that my parents were badmouthing her to our kids, and our oldest daughter was calling her a bitch. She confronted my mum, who laughed and said it had been going on for years, and now my wife is demanding to know why I didn't say anything. I tried to explain that no matter what they did, we both agreed to stick it out for the money, but she says I should have told her. Holy goddamn. This is probably one of the most messed up stories I've ever seen. Where'd you start with this? Firstly, how'd you end up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to your own family? What the hell is going on there? And then you got the couple never seeing eye to eye, the family bad-mouthing the wife behind the back, and then OP not saying anything to the wife from the very start when he knew this was all going on. And the kids all sound like they have some sort of all different variations of mental issues going on, probably because of the way they've been raised and the whole family dynamic that's going on. The whole thing. And again, this is going to be a very, very Reddit thing to say, but for this one in particular, the whole thing just all needs to go into therapy. Wow, not that it sounds like OP's parents or would even do that. And then they've continued to borrow money on top of all of this. Wow. Let's just go to the comments to see if anyone else has got an answer for this. Crockpot Hotshot says, whoa, there's a lot to unpack here. This is above Reddit's pay grade. Go find a family therapist, 100%. I'm not sure how they would start with that either, to be quite honest. Hey Jude says, everyone sucks here. Congrats for 3 generations of arseholes. Octo says, everyone sucks here. What in the ever-living fuck is going on here? How the fuck did you end up so indebted? How did your kids end up hating their mother? Why did your parents hate your wife? Why are you barely in this picture at all? Commenting like you weren't even there. What is happening? Kitten of the East says, you're the arsehole. You weren't a united front. This kind of thing is why. How could you let your parents trash your wife, the mother of your children, like this, when she doesn't speak the language and can't defend herself? Your parents are arseholes too. Lexi Plays says, everyone sucks here. Holy hell, did you and your wife make your bed good? But you and your wife should start with marital and financial counselling. And then Ian Dawkins says, everyone sucks here and I will explain why. Number 1, you and your wife together actively made this decision to borrow money, and from the sounds of it, have continued to make that decision. The saying you've made your bed has never been quite so perfect as here. The fact that you have borrowed into hundreds of thousands shows a distinct lack of financial knowledge at best, and ignorance at the worst. 2. Your parents are quite honestly reaping the benefits of you and your wife's bad decision making. They know that they can literally upset your whole dynamic at the snap of a finger. The fact that they have already resorted to blackmail. And quote, if my wife tried to stand up to my mum would just ask if she wanted lights for the month. And then says this is an emotional abuse that your parents know will work every time. They literally hold the power over everything you do, and they are abusing you both with it. And 3, why the hell have you allowed it to get this bad with your children? And quote, it's pretty bad right now. My 21-year-old hates her mother and won't come to the house. My 19-year-old isn't at the extreme, but living with my parents and going to school and says they're his real family. And my 16-year-old is rebelling against her mum and calls my mum up to complain. And then says, this kind of shows that as parents, you've both done kind of crappy jobs. Your children have no respect for you, likely because you never stood up to your parents, and they likely see that as you and your wife being weak. They're now using that knowledge against you to cement the fact that you have no control over them or their actions. The fact that your children have turned against your wife so much means your parents have been working on getting them against her for years. And if you have known for years that they have actively verbally abusing your wife with your kids, you had a duty to stop it. The fact that you have basically said, and quotes, I didn't see the point in telling her when we were trapped. And says, quite honestly, this is the coward's answer because you simply didn't want conflict that would have likely ensued from her knowing before now what had been said. And quotes again, now my wife is demanding to know why I didn't say anything. And says, she has a right to demand to know why you wouldn't tell her something like this, but more to the point, if I were her, I'd likely to be demanding to know why, as my husband, you didn't defend me, or ask them to stop bad-mouthing her in front of your kids. And quotes one more time, I tried to explain that no matter what they did, we both agreed to stick to it for the money, but she says I should have told her. And says one more time, yes, you both agreed to stick it out for the money, but in my opinion, she is right that you should have told her. The fact is, if she'd at least known that they were speaking about her like this, she would have been able to react or try to change things. So yeah, overall, everyone sucks here, but I think you're slightly the arsehole for the fact you've let their treatment of your wife go on for as long as it has. Now, what do you guys make of this mess? Do you make heads or tail of it? And where would you start with it? Where'd you start with a mess like that? That's been going on for so many years. Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. Once again guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories, and if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And you can also support the channel either through YouTube membership or head on over to Patreon, where we have memberships there too. Thank you very much for your time out of your day today guys, and I hope you have a great day ahead of you. Much love. Goodbye.